My dad looked me straight in the eye, a smirk playing on his lips, and he actually laughed before saying, "Your sister earned everything on her own, unlike you. Can you believe that?" My own father, dismissing years of my struggle and sacrifice with a single, sneering comment, all to uplift my golden child sister. He thought he had the upper hand, that his words would crush me. But what he didn't realize was that in that moment, something inside me snapped. I stared back at him, a cold fire igniting in my chest, and I replied with something that silenced him completely. Was I wrong for finally standing up for myself and exposing the ugly truth about his favoritism and the so-called achievements of my perfect sister? Tell me, would you have done the same thing? Let me take you back to where it all began, because to understand that moment, you need to understand everything. My sister, Sarah, and I are only 2 years apart. From the moment we were old enough to walk and talk, it was clear that our parents had a favorite. And it wasn't me. Sarah was the golden child. She was naturally beautiful, effortlessly charming, and seemed to glide through life with an ease I could only dream of. I, on the other hand, was always a bit more awkward, a little shyer, and I had to work twice as hard for everything, often with half the recognition. Our parents, especially my dad, adored Sarah. Every one of her accomplishments, no matter how small, was met with grand celebrations, lavish gifts, and endless praise. My achievements, even significant ones, were usually met with a nod, a brief "that's nice," or, more often, a comparison to Sarah. Sarah got an A+ in math too, but she did it without studying. Or, Sarah's painting was much more vibrant than yours. It was a constant drumbeat of subtle, and sometimes not so subtle favoritism that slowly but surely chipped away at my self-esteem. Growing up, I often felt like an outsider in my own family. Birthdays were a prime example. For Sarah's sweet 16, she got a brand new car, a lavish party with all her friends, and a diamond necklace. For my sweet 16, I got a nice dinner out and a gift card to a bookstore. Don't get me wrong, I appreciated the dinner and the gift card, but the disparity was glaring and it hurt. It wasn't just about the material things. It was the emotional investment, the pride my parents radiated when Sarah was around, a pride that rarely extended to me. I learned early on that to get any attention, I had to be exceptional, I had to be flawless. So, I pushed myself. I excelled in school, I got into a good university, I worked multiple part-time jobs to pay for my own tuition and expenses because, unlike Sarah, I wasn't getting a free ride. My parents, particularly my dad, always had an excuse for why Sarah deserved more, why her path was easier. Sarah needs stability for her studies, he'd say, while I was balancing classes with shifts at a coffee shop and a retail store. Sarah's future is brighter, she needs this head start, he'd justify, as I was racking up student loan debt. The most infuriating part was how they framed Sarah's success. According to my dad, Sarah was a self-made woman. Every career step she took, every promotion she received, was hailed as a testament to her sheer brilliance and hard work. He'd tell anyone who would listen how Sarah pulled herself up by her bootstraps, how she earned everything on her own. And I just had to stand there, smiling politely, while my blood boiled, because I knew the truth. I knew the truth about the networking opportunities he set up for her with his powerful friends. I knew about the internship at his golf buddy's company that conveniently led to a management position right after graduation. I knew about the loan he gave her to buy her first apartment, a loan he never mentioned to me, and one that I strongly suspected was never repaid. But I kept quiet. I held my tongue, believing that eventually my own hard work would speak for itself, that my parents would see my value, that they would finally acknowledge me for me. I kept hoping that one day my dad would look at me with the same admiration he reserved for Sarah. It was a foolish hope, I now realize. Years passed. I graduated college, started my own career in a demanding field, and slowly but steadily built a life for myself. It wasn't handed to me. I fought for every inch. I moved to a different city, partly for better job prospects, but also to create some distance from the suffocating favoritism. Sarah, meanwhile, continued her ascent, always a few steps ahead, always with my dad's invisible hand guiding her. She bought a beautiful house in a prime location, drove a luxury car, and often posted about her exotic vacations on social media. Each post was met with a flurry of congratulatory comments from my parents, always emphasizing how much she deserved it. I tried to maintain a good relationship with my sister, despite everything. We'd have occasional phone calls, mostly surface-level conversations. I never brought up the favoritism directly. It felt too raw, too painful, and I didn't want to cause more friction. I just focused on my own life, on building my own success, on proving to myself that I didn't need their approval. The breaking point came during a family gathering at my parents' house. It was a rare occasion when all of us were together. Sarah was there, radiating her usual glow, recounting tales of her latest promotion and how she single-handedly secured a major client for her company. My dad, predictably, was beaming, hanging on her every word. He kept making comments about how proud he was of her, how she was a true go-getter, a self-made success story. And then he turned to me, not to ask about my job or my life or anything of substance. He just looked at me, a condescending look in his eyes, and said, "You know, Sarah's done so well. She's really earned everything on her own. It's admirable." It wasn't a question, it was a statement, a thinly veiled jab at me. It was his usual comparison, but this time it felt different. It felt like he was not just praising her, but actively demeaning me, erasing all my efforts. And that's when he added the laugh, that dismissive, arrogant laugh, and said, "Unlike you." So that's the situation I was in, and I had to make a choice. I could swallow the bitter pill once again, smile weakly, and let his words sting in silence. Or I could finally, after all these years, stand up for myself. Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to pause and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. Would you have let it go, or would you have finally unleashed the truth? My dad's laugh echoed in the room, and everyone was looking at me, expecting my usual quiet resignation. But not this time. Something had finally snapped. I took a deep breath, met his gaze, and with a voice that was surprisingly steady, I replied, "Oh, she earned everything on her own, did she? That's interesting, Dad, considering I remember quite a few things that don't exactly fit that narrative." The smirk on his face faltered, replaced by a flicker of surprise, then irritation. Sarah, who had been basking in his praise, suddenly looked uncomfortable. My mom, usually silent during these exchanges, looked wide-eyed. I continued, my voice gaining strength with each word. "Do you remember the internship at Mr. Henderson's company, Dad? The one you arranged not through her merit, but through your golf buddy connection that conveniently led to a management position for Sarah right out of college, while I was working 3 jobs to pay for my tuition." His face began to flush a deep red. Sarah tried to interject, "That's not fair. I worked hard there, but I didn't let her." "And do you remember the loan you gave her for the down payment on her first house? The one she never had to pay back, but I was told to figure it out on my own when I was struggling to make rent?" I saw my mom wince, clearly remembering. And what about the networking events you've taken her to over the years, introducing her to all your powerful friends, essentially fast, tracking her career while I was told to build my own connections? I looked directly at Sarah then. You've always had a safety net, Sarah. A very expensive, well-connected safety net provided by Dad. You never had to truly struggle. You never had to claw your way up from the bottom. Every single achievement you've had has been propped up by Dad's influence and money. So no, Dad, she didn't earn everything on her own. She had a massive head start, a constant push, and a financial cushion that I, your other child, was never afforded. The room was utterly silent. My dad was speechless, his face a mask of anger and disbelief. Sarah was staring at me, her usual confidence completely shattered, replaced by a look of betrayal and shame. My mom, for the first time in my life, looked at me with something akin to understanding, maybe even admiration, for finally speaking my truth. The aftermath was predictably chaotic. My dad exploded, yelling about disrespect and ingratitude. Sarah tried to defend herself, but her arguments felt hollow even to her. I didn't engage further. I had said my piece. I had finally, after decades of silence, laid bare the truth of their favoritism and Sarah's undeserved accolades. I stood there, calm amidst the storm, feeling a strange mix of relief and sadness. Relief that the secret was out, sadness that it had come to this. I didn't wait for the argument to escalate further. I simply picked up my bag and walked out, leaving them to deal with the uncomfortable silence I had created. Things have been strained since then. My dad has barely spoken to me, still fuming. Sarah initially tried to play the victim, but I heard through my mom that she's had to confront some uncomfortable truths about her own success. My mom, surprisingly, has been more supportive. She's called me a few times, acknowledging that I was right, that they had treated us differently, and that she regretted her silence. It's a small step, but it's something. For me, it was a necessary act of self-preservation. I finally freed myself from the burden of their expectations and the constant need for their approval. I realized that my worth doesn't come from their validation, but from my own strength and resilience. This whole mess taught me a profound lesson about speaking your truth, even when it's uncomfortable. Sometimes you have to burn a few bridges to build your own path. My dad's words were meant to diminish me, but they ended up being the catalyst for my liberation. So, if you've ever felt unseen or unappreciated, if you've ever had your struggles dismissed, know that your voice matters. Don't let anyone, not even family, make you feel less than you are. Like this video if you were on my side in this crazy family drama. Subscribe for more stories like this, where people finally stand up for themselves. And please, share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section below. I'll see you all in the next story.